Two questions that a student sent in from the review yesterday. It's number 14 and number 23 from the Chapter 7 review on page 456. Thank you, Roa. Hopefully you're all trying these and emailing me questions. But for number 14, it's relatively simple, but you got to remember a couple of things. What we have is 4x quantity squared over 4x quantity to the 1/2. You could just say 4x to the 2 minus 1/2 and do it that way, but I think it's easier to see it this way. Look, that 2 is going to affect both, so that'll be 16x squared over that 1/2 is going to affect both. 4 to the 1/2 is 2, x to the 1/2, so the 16 over 2 is simply 8. X squared over x to the 1/2 is simply x squared minus 1/2. Well, 2 minus 1/2 is 4 over 2 minus 1 over 2, which is 3 over 2. So that's going to become 8x to the 3 over 2. Okay, so hopefully you guys can follow that one. The other one was this one, 23, where it said f of x is equal to negative x to the 4th, and you're supposed to find the inverse. Well, of course, we just set y equal to negative x to the 4th. How do we find an inverse? We switch x and y. X equals negative y to the 4th. Now I got to solve for y. So I'm going to divide out the negative. So I'll have negative x is equal to y to the 4th. But now, how do I undo the 4th power? I take it to the 1/4 power. Notice that whole side's to the 1/4. So I have basically negative x in parentheses now to the 1/4. I'm taking the 4th root of, that negative, we got to be careful. That's going to equal y. Think of this, you guys, that right here, this whole thing. Think of this as the 4th root of negative x. Now just think about this for a while. If I put a positive number in for x, I'm going to be taking the 4th root of a negative number because that negative sign's in here. So that means the only thing I can put in for x right here is also a negative number. So negative would turn to positive, and then I can take the 4th root of a positive number. So the way this is written, the 4th root of negative x, I can only use negative values for x, because then I would end up with the 4th root of negative. I need to put a negative number in here so this will become positive, then I can take the even root. That's why when you finish taking the inverse, part of the answer says the domain can only be negative numbers, and that's why. So hopefully you'll understand that, but please email me more questions.